Yo, welcome to another episode of Simplyballdroppin. I'm your host, K Sapp, and the man behind the mic. Today we got a special episode, New Year's Eve. Got a special guest, Mr. V, Mr. Vaughn Harper.
Welcome, everybody. Appreciate that, K Sapp. Looking forward to a nice, tight episode. Lots of feedback from the peanut gallery.
Yeah, hey, today's episode, I got a lot of people that have reached out to me. They know I'm in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and they want to talk about the Cowboys. Normally, I don't do a show predicated to one particular team, but I got a lot of people hit me up about the Cowboys. Mr. V, being in the great state of Maryland, I know you're a Redskin fan. My question to you is, on the Redskins forefront, I see they making a coaching change. How you feel about the coaching change that the Redskins have made?
Well, K Sapp is a lifelong Redskins fan, someone who's been through the thick and thin. As a matter of fact, when I was first, introduced to your family and started my venture into becoming a part of your family, I was a diehard Redskins fan. I remember telling your folks that, and they told me their opinions of the Redskins. And I believe in 1992 was the last time our Skins won a Super Bowl. And since then, we've been lackluster. So as a fan, I cheer for my team, but I have a low ceiling and low hopes for the future. So I don't get excited anymore. The wins and the performance on the field will tell it to me more than any press conference, any new head coach, any GM, any owner, any player coming to the team. The proof is in the wins and losses, and once they start establishing that they're going to be a team that's competitive always, put their best foot forward out there, win or lose, and put forth a good product, then I'll have a lot more optimism on what's going to come up in the future. But for now, I'm a wait-and-see type of fan. Still a diehard fan, but I'm a wait-and-see type of fan.
Man, you remember back in the days when I used to mess with you, when y'all had Ernest Biner and Gerald Riggs, and I used to say Robitussin?
Yes. Coughed it up. Many times, yes, indeed.
Every time one of them cats got hit, man, they would cough it up just like Robitussin. And it's crazy.
We use that term till today, Robitussin.
Yeah, as soon as they got hit, they coughed it up. But I got a lot of Cowboy fans, man, that always be hitting me up, and they always ask me my take on the Cowboys. And me personally, I have nothing against the Cowboys. It's the fan base. It's crazy that every year the fans always talking about, oh, we going to the Super Bowl. We win in the Super Bowl. This our year. They just never take it game by game. It's a crazy situation that's going on in Dallas right now with the coaching. And I want to ask you, as one of the NFC East rivals, the Washington Redskins, you're a fan, and the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, do you think a coaching change would help out the Cowboys, or do you think Jason Garrett, he can get it done? I mean, he has a lot of talent, but do you think he can get it done?
That's a tough question to answer, I'll say, in this sense. So I believe players make the team. Coaches know how to guide those players and get the most out of them and put forth the best strategy for the talent they have for them to be successful. And then as far as an organization, if that organization is supportive, giving the coaches and the players the resources they need to get the job done, spreading that awareness out there, I think you got a winning combination. So the Cowboys, and again, this is from a Redskins fan, the Cowboys over the years have had that. They've had a payroll where they can get in some of the best talent in the league. As far as I remember, almost every year they've had one of the most competitive, if not the most competitive rosters as far as talent on there. They have a super fan base that we'll talk about more in a little bit. And they've had some coaches where I don't think they've gotten the most out of their team, or the results haven't maybe reflected the effort they've put forth. Because I'm the type of guy to give the person the benefit of the doubt. And that goes back to your original statement with the Cowboys fans, at least from a non-Cowboys fan's perspective, is the hype that we hear, that we read about, that we see, is that coming from the majority of the fan base? Is that coming from the media blowing it up? am I looking at that as not a Cowboys fan and saying, wow, do they really think that? Is that what really a lot of the Cowboys fans think? Or are they just passionate fans, just like any other team has passionate fans that support their team every year faithfully? That's kind of what we talked about a little bit earlier, and what I'm most curious about tonight from the Cowboys fan. Again, this isn't a Cowboys bash session, but I want to know from the Cowboys fans' perspective, how that is, how they are. Are they what we consider realistic fans that are just passionate, or do they truly, as the media hypes them up to be from our perspective, are they like that? Are they what people would consider delusional, if you so to speak? That's my question, Billy.
Well, based on what you said, the media controls the narrative. You know that, right? So when I say the media controls the narrative, it's these sports shows that talk about, different athletes and different teams. And I'm going to break it down into two segments. You got Skip Bayless on Undisputed. He controls the narrative, the LeBron James narrative. His narrative from the beginning was LeBron is not clutch. And that has stuck with Skip Bayless the whole time that he's been on the airwaves. So people have bought into that and listened to what Skip say about LeBron is not clutch. He don't have a clutch gene. So that's the narrative. Now, the other part of it is the media with Stephen A. Smith, the way he feels about the Cowboys. They're an accident waiting to happen. So the media is controlling the narrative in that aspect. But the fan base, Stephen A. don't have a problem with the Cowboys team as a whole. He has a problem with the fan base. The fan base is delusional, the way Stephen A. Smith says it, right? And the people that I associate with around here, like the guys at my job and things like that, they are delusional because you get in there week 3, the Cowboys was 3-0. Oh, this is our year. We're going to the Super Bowl. Nothing can stop us. Then you want to, shoot your little jabs and things like that. And then when you take a loss, you don't want to say nothing. It's like I've told you incidents that I've had since I've been here in Dallas, with the Cowboy fans. I'm not mentioning no names, but there was this one particular dude that used to always text me when the Cowboys won. I mean, for what reason? I wouldn't entertain it, but as soon as they lose, I'd send a text back. I would get crazy responses from him like, where's your integrity? Where is this? Where is that? And it was kind of crazy. It's like the fan base is like, when you win, you're up. When you lose, you don't want nobody to bother you. But other teams, when they win, they're up. When they lose, they got to feel the wrath. And they handle it a little better. But Cowboy fans, it's a little different with them. So since I've been here, as years have progressed, I've learned to just sit back from afar with these Cowboy fans. And like Mr. V said, I'm interested in what all the Cowboy people that are out there looking and watching. I want y'all to tune in. I want y'all to give me your perspective on the way you support your team. And is it one apple makes every apple bad, or is that just the way Cowboy fans are? I would love to hear from you.
That's a good point you brought up there, K-Sap. Like I said, I give people the benefit of the doubt, even though this kind of is a different type of scenario. And I know how the media can try to, in my opinion, paint the narrative and make the masses think or feel a certain way. I don't subscribe to that. I'm an independent thinker, so I might listen to what Stephen A. Smith has to say, or Skip Bayless, or Shannon Sharp, or some of those other people. But I have my own opinion, and I'm going to go with what I see and what I feel. And I'm wondering about that with some of the Cowboys fans out there. And I don't want to lump them all into one circle, because not all fans are the same fans. So we can't paint a picture and say all of them are a certain way or none of them are a certain way. But from the ones that, we know that listen to this podcast, that are friends with you on Facebook in real life, I would like to hear their perspective on how they view themselves as fans, what they truly feel about their team, so that we can kind of put it in perspective. Because I've heard Skip Bayless's take. I've heard Stephen A. Smith and how he bashes them and gets on them and stuff like that. And we're on Facebook now, and you see a lot of the posts on there, at least I see it, from Cowboys fans who support their team to, and a lot more posts, I think I would say, of people who jump in and jump on those fans when the Cowboys lose a game. And that's why, I have the question for the Cowboys fans, how do they feel? And maybe for some of the other people who aren't necessarily Cowboys fans, why is it a big deal that when the Cowboys lose, that they put all these things on social media? It's like they're celebrating the loss of the Cowboys, which really doesn't have anything to do, for the most part, with whether their team wins or loses, unless their team is playing them. As a Steelers fan, why would you cheer and celebrate the loss of the Cowboys unless it means something to you in the long run? As a Patriots fan, as an Oakland Raiders fan, whoever. What difference does it make if another team loses if that's not impacting what your team's going to do? And why do you care? Why do you put so much energy, it seems like, put so much energy into what happens with the Cowboys if you're not a fan? So again, some of those that aren't Cowboys fans, why do you put so much energy into, quote, bashing or criticizing, critiquing what the Cowboys do or don't do on any given Sunday, Monday, or Thursday night?
Man, that's a great assessment, and it's funny that you said that, because I think that's what makes social media relevant. When people go back and forth, just like you touched on about when the Cowboys lose, people always coming for the Cowboy fans. When the Cowboys win, they throwing jabs at other teams, talking about, did your team win, but you still got the Cowboys in your mouth. So it goes hand in hand, and it keeps social media relevant. It keeps a lot of things going on in the social media world that people go back and forth, and sometimes that's what makes it fun. Sometimes it's all in fun, but some people don't look at it like that. Some people get seriously in their feelings, and it's just something that people do every day. I mean, that's in everyday life. Somebody gonna take a jab at you. Sometimes words can't hurt you, but it's funny, like you said, to go on Facebook and see some of the posts that when the Cowboys win, you see all the memes come out and they jabbing at other teams, especially with the Redskins. You're at the bottom of the barrel, and as soon as the Cowboys lose, somebody will make a post and things will look crazy, and people will start bashing each other, and then they jabbing, and then when the Cowboys don't win, and you don't see no posts from none of the Cowboy fans, and then you got particular people come on and say, hey, where y'all Cowboy fans at? Keep that same energy. A lot of people just bash them for no reason. So I'm kind of interested, just like you, to hear from some Cowboy fans to see what y'all perspective is on that, and see if y'all can give me a breakdown, because I see a lot of it on Facebook all the time. A lot of people do a lot of talking, but then after that they just shut down. So I'm interested to hear what a lot of people got to say, with their particular team, until they chime in and go ahead.
I was going to say, Case, I'll follow up on that. I wonder too, we have Facebook friends from around the country. I'm wondering if that's regional. So what I've noticed, at least in my perspective, here in the DMV, for you non-DMV people, DMV stands for District of Columbia, Maryland, and Virginia. That's what we call the tri-state area here. You'll see a lot of Cowboys fans. You'll see a lot of Cowboys, quote, haters and bashing. I'm wondering, in other parts of the country, is it the same? Do people care that much about the Cowboys? Up in New England, do they care about the Cowboys that much, I wonder? California, up in Seattle, do they care about what the Cowboys do so much? I wonder if the level of interest is the same as we see it here, or is that something that in our circles we happen to see? I don't see a lot of posts about the New England Patriots, but they win a whole lot of games. And there's a whole lot of controversy in the media about whether they're cheating and this and that. But you would see, and to me, you would think that a team that's been as successful as the New England Patriots year after year after year, there would maybe be more animosity, more attention given to them, as opposed to the Dallas Cowboys, who had decent seasons, sometimes mediocre seasons in my opinion, sometimes lackluster seasons, but they get a lot more publicity, they get a lot more attention on social media from the people in our circles than some of those teams that have been more successful for longer. Green Bay, Pittsburgh, Seattle, some of the other teams that are routinely good and routinely make it to the playoffs. It's just not the same amount of spotlight. So again, I wonder if that's regional. If we were in other parts of the country, in different areas, different fan bases, how do they view or feel about the Cowboys? And again, this is from the listeners or some of your followers that are in those parts of the country. What's your perspective on the Cowboys from where you're from, whether you're a fan or not?
Okay, we're going to come back to that. We got a question from one of the viewers, man. He's asking, this is from DJ Gray. He's asking, is that the Floyd Mayweather effect, except that they're not winning? Is that the Floyd Mayweather effect?
So is that the Floyd Mayweather effect, but that they're not winning? Meaning, trying to decipher what he means by that.
I think what he's trying to say is, you know how everybody hates on Floyd? They always tune in. They're going to watch Floyd regardless, win or lose. Some people are going to tune in just to see him lose. And is that the same way that people are treating the Cowboys? A lot of people say, well, I'm going to watch him because I want him to lose. So is that the same effect, the Floyd Mayweather effect?
If you're asking my opinion, I think there are people out there that is the case for, that they're going to tune in for whatever reason, because they love the Cowboys, because they hate the Cowboys and want to see them lose every game and do as bad as possibly they can.
Totally agree.
They're going to tune in to watch that and see their downfall and root for them to lose and to be the people that are posting on every missed pass or interception or botched kickoff or whatever it is, some of those people there. So yes, and I think that's going to be true for any sports team or athlete. You're going to get people that are, we'll use the term haters, that are going to watch simply so they can boo and chastise that player, that team, or that organization. But I think that's a good point. I think there are plenty of them out there. From my personal opinion, in this area, I know people that they, simply despise the Cowboys and want them to lose every game and want them to be as unsuccessful as possible. And it has nothing to do with their team or, anything about them. They just don't like the Cowboys and want to see them, not succeed. And I would ask them, if I had the opportunity, why is that? Why don't you? Why do you feel that way about them? Why them in particular, out of all teams, do you feel that way, that you have that type of animosity? That'd be a question I'd ask back to those people that feel that way.
Now, coming back to the point that you just made earlier, when you was talking about the regions, me personally, I just think it's a DFW and DMV thing. I think that's where the majority of the bashing and the hating come back and forth, because the DMV area, you got a lot of Redskin fans, but also you got a lot of Cowboy fans as well. And I think that them two particular, Dallas and the DMV, you got a lot of people that are, Dallas fans in the DMV that come to Dallas-Fort Worth to watch the Cowboys. So I think majority of it, and I think you see it too, majority of it is they go back and forth on Facebook. They try to claim their territory. Like I said, you got a lot of Washington Redskin fans in the D.C. area, but also you got a lot of Cowboy fans too. So I don't think it's the notoriety out in New England, California. I just think it all surrounds around the DMV and the DFW. What you think?
I'm going to ask you a question on that, K-Sap. I believe that's a case because, we're in an area where that's, like you said, relevant. And for years, the big rivalry, so to speak, in NFC East, and some would say in football, was Dallas versus Washington. Now, I would ask you this as someone who's lived in Texas for many years, who's from this area, not necessarily a Redskins fan, but you're from the DMV, and you're down in Texas, and you know a lot of Texas people who are Cowboys fans from the heart of Texas. Is the rivalry, and this also goes out to those listening, those following, and chiming in, is the rivalry the same on both sides? Meaning, for you people, you Cowboys fans, do you view the Washington-Dallas rivalry the same as I would say a lot of us Redskins fans maybe still do, but used to view the rivalry like, we got to get that win. This is our biggest game of the year. We play Dallas twice. We got to get that win versus them. I'm not worried about, Philadelphia or the Giants or any other team. As long as we beat the Cowboys, that's our rival. We got to do that. I used to think that years ago, but as the record was mediocre for us, our Skins, I started to look at that more neutrally. Big deal. We beat the Cowboys. if that's not going to get us to the playoffs or help us out, who cares? They're just another team. But I always wondered, do the Dallas fans view that rivalry with the Redskins the same, or do they view the Redskins as, quote, just another NFC team or just another NFL football team that they play against?
Man, that right there is a great point, because if you go back past time, the rivalry was strong back in the early 80s, late 80s, into the 90s. But when Washington Redskins as a whole stopped winning and stopped being competitive, I think Washington looked at it as more of a rivalry to Dallas, because it didn't matter to them if they didn't win no games during the regular season as long as they beat the Dallas Cowboys. But see, the Dallas Cowboys was still winning in the late 80s and early 90s because they were still chalking up Super Bowls. So it really didn't matter to them. I think that was just another game on the NFC East schedule. But when the Redskins fell off and they stopped winning games, being mediocre, when they started beating the Cowboys, that's the only thing that the Redskins could hang their hat on. Oh, we beat y'all twice. But still, Dallas still made it out of the NFC East. They went on to win the Super Bowls. So I think from the question that you stated, I think that the Redskins looked at it as more of a rivalry than Dallas back then. But as the teams grow older now and they're playing, I think it's equal. I think they both look at each other as a rival because they're not winning football games. These are two in the NFC East. All you got to do is win 9 games to get in the playoffs, right? And I think the 2 games on the schedule for both teams, they look at it as a rivalry. So the Redskin fans and the Cowboy fans, they put a lot of emotions and feelings into it. And I think it's still a rivalry. I think the rivalry's picked up. But if things can change with the changing of coaches and make that NFC East relevant, then the rivalry will get even stronger.
I might agree with that. And one thing I didn't take into consideration was, it's a divisional team. So part of that, you don't want to look at them as just another NFL team, just another game you're playing, because trying to come out of the NFC East, it's a meaningful game. Every win is meaningful. Every loss is meaningful. I think, like you said, I got lost in the lackluster performances from both teams, but I'd say primarily from the Redskins team. We go 3-13, 4-12, whatever it is. Even if we go 8-8 and we beat the Cowboys twice, if that's not pushing us into the playoffs, in my opinion, okay, that's just 2 more wins. Now, as a Redskins fan and knowing, coming from the days of the deep rivalry between the two, if we play the Cowboys, I'll admit that, and we have no shot of going to the playoffs. But if we can beat them and prevent them from going, then yes, there will be a little reward for me personally. Like, okay, yeah, we were the team to beat our rival, quote, and stop them from going to the playoffs. So, yeah, I can say as a Skins fan, looking at all the other teams, if there was a team in the NFC East that I wanted our Skins to beat, it would be the Cowboys as opposed to the Giants. Don't really care about them. The Eagles, don't really have any feelings about them. But yes, the Cowboys, yeah, I'd like to beat them every single time. No hate, but I'd like to beat them every single time because that's that generation where that was the big rival.
And that's how it is in the NFC East, man. It's the rivalry in the NFC East is Dallas and Washington. I mean, you can't sugarcoat that. You can't get around that. It's just, in the early '80s when the Fun Bunch with Art Monk, Alvin Garrett, and Gary Clark, and Doug Williams. That's when the Redskins was relevant. Redskins was winning games. Redskins won the Super Bowl. Doug Williams. You had the Hogs, and then you had the Cowboys with Ed Tuttle Jones and all the guys up front. And it was crazy because the rivalry was strong. And I think that with the Washington and Dallas, I think they're trying to keep that rivalry relevant. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's why the fans are predicated on doing what they doing via social media, via text message, via just conversation with Redskin and Dallas fans. They know how to keep the rivalry. They know how to keep it relevant. Even though their team is not winning, they know how to keep their team relevant. And if you look on Facebook, that's where all the bashing is between the Redskin fans and the Cowboy fans.
And that's interesting to point out, especially in the days of social media, and especially looking at generations. The big rivalry, like you said, back in the 80s, 90s, even when teams were a lot better. I'd take a guess that most of the posts that are coming, from Skins fans to Cowboys fans and vice versa, are from folks in our generation. I venture to think folks in the newer generation that come up, even those ones that are influenced by the parents, hey, we're, lifelong Skins fans or lifelong Cowboys fans or whoever, coming up in the modern age, if they were looking at teams in NFC East who were successful, they would have to look to the Giants for Super Bowls, Eli Manning. They would have to look to Philadelphia, most recently. Those teams have been more successful in the playoffs and on the big stage than either one of our teams, the Cowboys or the Redskins. So it's interesting. Next time I look at Facebook and I go through, and next season when they have all the posts and the memes dealing with the Skins and the Cowboys in particular, I'm going to take a survey and see how some of those comments, if they're coming from people from our generation or older, or if they're coming from the younger generations. I don't think the younger generation looks at it the same way we do.
And that's interesting that you said that, because me personally, being a Minnesota Vikings fan, if you look on Facebook, there's no Viking bashing. There's no Viking bashing. If you're a Carolina Panthers fan, there's no Carolina Panthers bashing. There's no Atlanta Falcons bashing. There's no Buffalo Bills bashing. There's no Baltimore Ravens bashing. You see what I'm saying? You see where I'm getting at? So it's majority of Cowboy and Redskin fans going back and forth, getting at each other, and certain people that like other teams, they get in the mix. So when you see something, they think it's funny, and when you make a comment on it, they'll be like, oh, you hating too. No, it's not about the hate. It's about I'm just responding to a post that I thought was funny. But if you go back and look, when you do your survey, take a survey on the majority of Facebook posts when football season is going on. Majority of the bashing is between Cowboy fans and Redskin fans.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
And I'm a
Cowboys fans. Yeah.
I'm a spin it a little bit.
Seen much else on there about that. Maybe a couple memes or something about the Patriots. I may see that here or there, but for the most part.
But that's them cheating memes. That's nothing like wishing bad on the Patriots, like, oh, they some cheating people, but they still win. It's no other people going at them. It's just like they bashing the Redskin and Cowboy fans, but the Patriot fans, the people that are saying stuff about the Patriots, they just put memes up there, Deflategate, stuff like that. They not bashing them. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So I'm gonna spin it a little bit. I'm gonna use another narrative, right? And this goes, I'm gonna throw my man. I know a lot of people don't feel, too good about LeBron James. Me personally, I rock with LeBron. And this is a similar situation on, like DJ said, the Floyd Mayweather effect. I look at what's transpiring now. Excuse me. I look at what's transpiring now with the Golden State Warriors, right? All last 3 to 5 years, it was nothing. Everybody wanted to talk about the Golden State Warriors. Now, the Golden State Warriors are injured. Kevin Durant left. And I'm saying to myself, is their fan base hurt too? Is the Warriors fan base hurt too? Because you don't see no Warriors post of anything. That was predicated on them battling LeBron James and people not wanting LeBron James to win or succeed in basketball.
I can see some of that, absolutely. I can see that. You know, like your buddy said, there's, you know, you're going to have people that, the Floyd Mayweather effect, I think is how he put it.
Yeah.
You're going to have that. They had that with Jordan. They had that, you know, with all the stars to a certain degree. So I think absolutely LeBron, he garners that type of attention, both positive and negative. You know, the quote haters, the doubters, the people that want to try to find any flaw and exploit that or say what he can't or hasn't done.
Yes.
You know, you can have that. But again, like we talked about in the beginning of the you know, section, I wouldn't look to that group, those group of people, that group of people, to say that they represent all Warriors fans or all any team's fans. You know, to me, you're going to hear most from a fan when the team is doing well, when they're winning. Like when we go to a game, you know, whether it was back in the Frederick High, you know, TJ high school games, you know, whether it was, you know, going to a Wizards, Mavericks game, what do? When our team does something great, whether they get a steal, a score, or whatever it is, we clap, we cheer, we stand up, right? That's what we do.
Exactly.
When our team doesn't do well, they have a turnover, you know, they lose the game, what happens? We're usually silent, we're usually talking amongst ourselves, criticizing what happened, but we're not standing up cheering. So I wouldn't expect a team who's not doing well, who may have been at the top of the pinnacle, like you know, Golden State, you know, now they're down with injuries and whatever, I wouldn't expect their fans to be as vocal as they were before, because why? They're losing. They don't have anything to really cheer about. And I wouldn't look at, you know, the fans that are sitting up there that are diehard, that you know, kind of like we brought this session about, you know, some of those Cowboy fans, some of those who, you know, think their team is the greatest in the world and is America's team and stuff like that, and they strongly believe that, I wouldn't label them as, you know, have them be the representation of all Cowboys fans. So I try to balance it out when it comes to stuff like that. You hear the naysayers, you hear the diehard supporters. I think most fans are somewhere in the middle of that spectrum somewhere. At least most realistic fans realize what their player, what their team, what their organization's strengths are, and will stand up and cheer when there's something to cheer about. And, you know, will criticize when there's something to criticize, but they'll remain fans, whether they're clapping or whether they're booing. You know, they're still on your team side. You know, still got on the jersey, still got on the, you know, the merchandise and stuff like that, and still rolling with their team every season, you know, hoping for that success. That's just my opinion on that.
Okay, I got a viewer that chimed in. He wants to know, what's your take on the Dallas Mavericks?
My take on the Dallas Mavericks is they're playing extremely well. That kid, I shouldn't call him a kid because he's a grown man, but he's putting up sensational numbers. And I knew they had something special even before. I was down there as a Wizards fan, as a Washington diehard Wizards fan, whole family's Wizards fans. We actually came down with you there, Case, after your family went to a Wizards versus Maverick games right down there in Dallas, and we watched the Wizards get beat by about 20 points.
Yes.
And, you know, from that, you know, I knew that the kid was special. Watching some of his highlights throughout the season and some of the things he's doing, plus some of the acknowledgement that he's getting from the veterans and some of the superstars in the league, to me, you know, say that everything he's doing, he's earned it. He is the real deal, and the Mavericks are a team that I'd say at least, I'm not a Mavericks fan, but at least you have to keep your eye on and take seriously no matter what team you are, because they've beaten some of the best teams out there.
I totally agree with that. And Luka is special. I go on to tell cats when they was talking about Porzingis, you know, coming to Dallas. I said once Porzingis gets healthy and Luka keeps balling the way he did his rookie campaign, and he's picked it up and he's took it to another level. And the Mavericks as a whole, with him and Luka Doncic and Porzingis, they call him the unicorn, they doing some real special things. But my thing with the Dallas Mavericks, they're one of them sneaky teams that, like you said, you got to keep your eye on. But what I've noticed with Luka plays at his own pace. He's under control. He don't let nobody rush him to do anything that he wants to do on the court. He gets to the spot that he don't look athletic, but he gets to any spot that he wants to on the court because he plays under control. But these last 3 games I've noticed since Luka been back from the ankle injury, this is what I've noticed. Teams are going to start playing Luka physical. And it started in that Phoenix game when him and Kelly Oubre got tangled up and a lot of pushing and shoving. And then it carried over to the Laker game where Dwight Howard fouled him and he on his back. I just think they're going to play physical on Luka, and that kind of got up on Luka a little bit. I know he's still coming back off the ankle injury, but the kid is special. But when there's tape out on you and people start getting up in your chest, playing you physical and pushing you around and laying the wood on you, your mindset changes. So I've always told people about the consistency. With Luka, second year in, I keep it consistent. Everybody wants to talk about LeBron James and he's falling off and stuff. LeBron has been consistently doing what he's been doing for 17 years with the high mileage on his body, and I just want to see the consistency. And I always, talk about the Lakers like last year with the young guys. Everybody wanted to let the young guys rock out, but the young guys was inconsistent. And I was telling people about Lonzo Ball. Lonzo Ball is something that Alvin Gentry now sees that I saw when he played with the Lakers, that, hey, he benched him for Drew Holiday.
Right.
And, the other night, Lonzo comes in the game. He has a great game, one of his best games of his NBA career the other night against Houston when they beat Houston. But they not consistent. And I was telling people about Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram can ball. He can ball out. But when LeBron was hurt last year, when he went down with the Lakers, when he was hurt with the groin, Brandon Ingram was still balling. But as we used to say when we used to hoop, we said a thing about impact points. Brandon Ingram never had impact points last year when he played with the Lakers because they was losing games when LeBron was out the game. They wasn't impactful. Now he's down at New Orleans. He's hooping the same way he's hooped when he hooped with the Lakers. He's putting up big numbers. They on a 4-game win streak now, but they started out the gate slow. And that's like Kuzma. Kuzma is a scorer, but he's inconsistent. They got to have some consistency with the young guys of the Laker core that everybody wanted people to rock out last year. But what I say about Luka, Luka's the truth. But when you got tape out on you, cats are going to start playing him physical, and I want to see how he transpires from there. But as like Ricky said, asking about the Mavericks are a formidable opponent, and you got to keep your eye on them.
Oh, absolutely. Luka's he's done well for the short time that he's been in the league, and I'm a proponent of you got to give the players time to develop, time to see how they're going to do, over the long haul. We can, and you see this in the media, you see this, a player will have a great game. And then a lot of commentators, a lot of media personnel, maybe the public in general is like, wow, this person is the next whatever. And that's off of one game or a streak of a couple games or maybe a season like you may see in the NFL. Quarterback has a great season, they're going to be the next whoever it is. Then what happens the next season, they're not as productive, they fall off a little bit, and then sometimes they're thrown to the wolves. So in Luka's case, yes, he's played well. As the years go by, teams and players are going to learn more about his strengths and weaknesses, try to focus on that, so consistency matters. All the major stars were consistent. Some years they were better than others. Some games they were better than others. But they learned to play within their strengths and weaknesses over time. And to me, that's the ultimate tell right there. So I personally try not to get too high on a relatively new or young player coming out the gate, even with great potential, because you want to see that last. You want to see how that's sustained over the long haul, barring any injuries like LeBron James. It's been consistent throughout his career coming into the league from high school and then going on to what he's been doing. He's been consistent. Some years been better than others, but as you see, he's still one of the best, if not the best player in the NBA right now. With the mileage, with his age, with the teams that he's been on, he's still right there in MVP talk, and it has been almost every year. He's been there. So we'll give Luka his time, just like any players, give them their time to see what they're going to do, how consistent they stay, and, what type of results they can bring onto their organization. Just like, Carmelo Anthony to another degree, how he's been, how his career's been.
Totally agree with that. I got one of the viewers saying the Mavericks need one more piece. And I like to, I want to shout out to my good friend, TD Guru Davis. We need you on the show, TD. We need you on the show. So get at me. We need you on the show so we can rock out. But one of my viewers said the Mavericks need one more piece. They don't have enough scoring. And I think he might be right, because you're going to need scoring when you get, later on in the season, when guys start resting, load management, and you're going to need that scoring. But I totally agree with you, Ricky. One more piece for the Mavericks, and I think they'll be right there. Now, I got an interesting segue to this one. I want to talk about the two teams out in LA. Now, it's been a lot said before these teams came together, and when the pieces all came together, that the Clippers are the team to beat in the West. Mr. B, give me your take. Give me your honest opinion on them two teams in LA and what you think is unfolding out there, and who do you think out of them two teams is going to represent the West? Are you going with one of the LA teams, or are you going with the field?
I got to think on that. The two LA teams, we'll start with that, because I think one of those two comes out of the West strong. It's hard to say, because each week, I'll watch some highlights of both teams. I'll see Kawhi doing what he does, LeBron doing what he does with Anthony Davis, Patrick Beverly playing the defense that he plays, Paul George, all those pieces. And I look at it, and to be honest, K-Sap, I look at it and say it could go either way with them. I could see both teams, coming out of the West, moving forward. Just LeBron and his consistency, Anthony Davis' hunger, on LA, their fan base, their tradition, what I believe is their internal expectations with all the greats that came out of LA, pushing for them to keep that tradition up. Likewise, I could see it out of, the Clippers. Kawhi has established himself. He's proven himself in Toronto. Even up before that, he's playing well, and it seems like, to me, he plays well when the pressure's on. Playoff time comes, you can count on Kawhi, at least from my perspective, he can. And I still see that hunger in Paul George and some of the other Clippers players that believe, hey, this could be our time. We have the pieces together to do it. There's no reason that we can't. And I believe, looking at them, that they may look at the Lakers as their hurdle to get through. I don't think they look at some of the other teams, and I don't think any NBA team fears another team. They shouldn't. These are grown men playing a sport that shouldn't fear another team, but I think they do look at that realistically and say, yes, I think our team matches up well versus all these other teams. LA, the Lakers might be the team that we need to get over, to get to the promised land. So at this stage, KSAP, I could flip a coin. Even with that, when I just simulated flipping it, my mind's going to both sides. I can see Kawhi in them, I can see LeBron in them. So I can't give you a definitive answer right now. I need to let the season go by a little bit more, watch a couple more games between the two, especially when it gets down to the end of the season where the games are really meaningful, and it gets into playoff time to give you who I think out of those two would come out of the West, barring any injuries, of course.
Yeah, you want to see all the guys healthy, and I'm going to give you my take on that. We've seen Paul George over the years. We've seen Paul George blossom into the player that he's become right now. We've watched the battles with LeBron and Paul George from the Miami days and the Indiana days when they had Roy Hibbert, right? So we know the battles between LeBron and Paul George. And the reason why I'm pointing out Paul George is because Paul George, at the rightful age that he is and the age that LeBron is and all the battles that he's had with LeBron, Paul George was something special back then. But like David West said, LeBron was just on another level where other superstars that faced LeBron could not match and couldn't get over that hurdle. And we've seen Paul George in the playoffs come up small. So Paul George, yeah, he's hungry playing with the Clippers. I just got to see better ball from Paul George in a playoff setting. And I've always told guys there's a difference. You got regular season guys and you got playoff guys. James Harden is another example. He's a regular season guy, but when the playoffs come around, James Harden is a no-show. But back to Paul George. Paul George has to show me something different this year when it gets to the playoffs for me to consider that the Clippers can beat the Lakers in a 7-game series, even beating Houston in a 7-game series. Because with the Houston team, Russell Westbrook is going to give you 110% each time he's out there, regardless of the situation. So the Clippers, I'm not going to jump all the way out there on them just yet. They're a great team, got a great coaching staff, but it's going to be the Paul George factor. Kawhi is going to be Kawhi. Kawhi is going to show up on the big stage regardless, because leading up to the Christmas Day game, Kawhi Leonard was shooting career low from field goal percentage and three-point line. But on Christmas Day, he rose to the occasion and he performed. So like you said, he's going to show up. It's the Paul George that I need to see, because the year that LeBron came back to Cleveland and they played Indiana in the first round, Paul George, where was he at? LeBron outshined him again with a bunch of players that they wasn't supposed to make the playoffs. So my take on that, 7-game series, it will be a battle, but I think the Lakers will win in a 7-game series because Anthony Davis is going to be the deciding factor. They don't have nobody that can stop Anthony Davis. Montrezl Harrell is too small. They're going to try to throw different bodies at him, but I think he's going to be the deciding factor. If you get KCP shooting the ball the way he's shooting it now, I think the Lakers are hard out.
I can't disagree with that. Like I said, it's still a flip of the coin to me at this stage. And I think the playoffs, like we've seen over the years, is where a lot of the greats, really test their mettle and show what they're made of when it comes to the big games. When the games that count, that's where they step up. And Kawhi has shown that. LeBron obviously has shown that. We still have yet to determine Anthony Davis on that big stage.
Yes.
And likewise with Paul George on that big stage, how they're performing when it comes down to it. So to me, it's interesting. That's a matchup I'd like to see, coming out of the West, to see who can take that. As far as you said with Houston, James Harden is impressive, no doubt about that. Some of the stuff he does is, it's unimaginable sometimes when you think how easily he scores. But we'll say this, their success has been limited.
Yes.
And they've been to the playoffs several times with the scoring juggernaut that they are, and Harden seemingly being as unstoppable as he is, but yet and still, they haven't got over that hump to get there. And whatever reasons that may be, maybe for another show, somehow they're limited no matter what pieces they've had there. No matter which team they were going through to try to ultimately get there, it didn't happen. And I think their team this year, with the field of competition that they're facing, because they don't have a Golden State Warrior, deadly five that they're facing out there. They're facing up with other teams, in my opinion, that have similar type of rosters, a superstar, an all-world player, team with another superstar player, team with some quality pieces around this. To me, they have the makeup that you would think might help them get there or be competitive with the likes of the Lakers, maybe the Clippers to a degree, and things of that nature. But for whatever reason, case that year after year, they're always watching the finals like we are at home on TV.
Exactly.
Or maybe they might be in the stadium courtside watching it, but they're not on the court.
Exactly. And interesting take. We're going to touch on it. I got my viewer, Trent Turner. He wants to touch on the Danny Green situation about Danny Green knocking down shots. It's kind of interesting you said that, Trent, because with Danny Green going to be there. Danny Green's makeup since he's been in the league. I mean, he didn't have a run with LeBron James before in Cleveland, but he was never, getting no playing time. Went off to San Antonio, made a name for himself, and you saw that in the Miami series where he was hitting all the threes, him and Patty Mills. So you're right. It does bank on Danny Green knocking down shots. Danny Green is going to knock down shots, and I'm not concerned about Danny Green. Danny Green is going to be there on the big stage, and he's going to knock down shots. Danny Green can go 0 for 4 from three-point line, but he's going to hit the big shot. I kind of consider him in the makes of a big shot Bob, but not to that extent. But he's going to hit the big shots. And if Danny Green is knocking down his shots, like you said, Trent, LeBron and AD going to beat LeBron and AD. But if Danny Green and KCP knocking down their shots, Lakers are a hard out. I don't see nobody beating them. I don't see Milwaukee in the East beating them. Giannis, we seen what Giannis can do during the regular season. But we saw what Giannis did in the playoffs. The game slows down. Toronto built a wall on Giannis. So did Philly. They made him shoot from the outside. I know his three-point shot is improved, but if he's going to hit 5 and 6 threes a game, you got to live with that. You just don't want him to get in the paint. So, Trent, I agree with that. If Danny Green is knocking down shots, Lakers going to be a hard out.
I can't disagree with that. Like I said, can't disagree with that at all. It'll be interesting when we get to the playoffs. Like I said before, I say this every season, all teams come into the playoffs full strength, no injuries, full lineups, make it as competitive as possible, put your best foot forward, and may the best team, win. So it's going to be interesting. It should be exciting. This when it comes to the playoffs and for the rest of the season with the NBA, with some of the teams and the makeups that you have out there, and who's going to be the regular season stars and who's going to be the postseason stars. Are they going to be one and the same?
And I totally agree with that. And, as I got into the topic of the Milwaukee Bucks on the East Coast, is there any particular team on the East that stands out that you think, is the front runner that you think is going to make the Eastern Conference Finals? I mean, who are your top 3 teams in the East?
In the East, I got to start with Milwaukee. They're putting their, Giannis is doing his thing. He looks like he's determined. And as you said before, regular season, he does his thing. We'll see what he can do in the playoffs. But as of right now, from what I've seen, I'd have to say Milwaukee. Boston has been interesting to me with Kemba Walker.
Yes.
And their addition. I got to throw Philly, to me, is one to keep your eye on. The potential, I believe, that they have if they play well consistently the way on paper it says they should be. They're concerned coming out of the, in the Eastern Conference that you have to keep your eye on. Some of the other teams, barring injuries, like I said, I'm a Wizards fan, so I can't throw them in there. And watching the teams that they play is not a good assessment for how good another team is, because they just come in and beat up on our poor Wizards. But watching some of these Eastern Conference teams play the other teams, especially big-name teams, and play each other, at this point, I'd have to go with those 3 right now on the radar if I had to name 3 off in the Eastern Conference. The tough part about that, Zap, and that being Philadelphia, Milwaukee, and Boston at this point, personally, the tough part about that is most of my attention, and I'm an East Coast guy, an Eastern Conference guy, most of my attention has been on the Western Conference and the teams out there, because for the past several years, that's where the champions have come from. that's where the biggest rivalries and the biggest games have stemmed from out there. So as an East Coast guy, as an NBA fan, a basketball fan, my attention has been on the West Coast, not so much what's happening in the East, unless one of those Eastern Conference teams is playing one of the big name teams out West.
Hey, that's a great point. And I want to get back to these guys playing at these MVP levels. Just want to go back in history a little bit. When has been the last time that an MVP has been crowned and they went into the playoffs and got it done?
When was the last time an MVP has been crowned, went into the playoffs, and got it done, meaning come away with a championship?
Exactly.
To think back to that. Without checking Google, and by you asking that, I'm gonna think and push it back. Maybe LeBron. I'm trying to think when Steph Curry won the MVPs and if he won the championship during one of those years. I can't.
LeBron knocked him out. The year that Steph Curry won it unanimously, they won the 72 games, the 73 games, and LeBron knocked him off. LeBron was the last time they got the MVP and went on to, win a championship with Miami. Kevin Durant won it that year. He was the MVP, got knocked off in OKC.
Okay.
And the reason why I brought that up is because it's a lot of MVP front runners. The Giannis's of the world. Yeah, Giannis, you performing well in the regular season. What can you do for me when you get on the big stage? What can you do for me when you get in the playoffs? Can you put them kind of numbers up in the playoffs? And that's the problem I have about James Harden. James Harden can't put them type of numbers up in the playoffs. They had Golden State on the ropes last year when Kevin Durant went down, and they still couldn't get it done. And I blame that on James Harden.
And he's one man. I'll put it this way: he's one man, just like any player is one man playing in a team's game. And I still believe it's the team around you that helps those Supermen, as you will, get to that next level to get that championship. I'm trying to think if there has been ever any single NBA player that had a full team, a legitimate team of what we may consider role players or regulars, in their starting five, in their lineup, that were able to win a championship by themselves. I think it takes pieces, the right pieces put together at the right time, and to enable that superstar to be that superstar when he needs to be that superstar and when it counts. Now, for like a player like James Harden, I'll put it to you this way, K-Sap, and anybody else, listening or looking in, if he averages, 35 points a game during the regular season, gets to the playoffs and averages 20 points, but they win everything, do we view that as the same, or would we be saying, hey, James Harden doesn't have the same performance? Would it be an issue if that were the case?
Oh, no, it wouldn't be an issue because they won. But if you're not winning and you're putting up them type of numbers, you're gonna get scrutinized, and you're gonna go back to when LeBron wasn't putting up them type of numbers against Boston when he was in Cleveland. LeBron, that last game where he got tormented because he had a triple-double that last game, but he only took 15 shots. People like, you only took 15 shots in a decisive game, and you only took 15 shots? He got tormented for that. So even though he had the triple-double, the scoring wasn't there. But a lot of people don't understand about LeBron. LeBron don't care what the media says. LeBron is not going to change his game for nobody. I mean, LeBron is one of the, like I said earlier, one of the smartest guys. He knows how to dictate the narrative. I mean, he knows how to change things up. So regardless of what people say about LeBron, you ain't got the killer instinct, you don't do this and do that, LeBron is never going to change his game up. And people got to be accustomed to that because, like he said, coming up through the AAU ranks, it was one game, it was national televised when he was playing high school ball. At halftime, his team was up 20. LeBron had like 4 points probably about 8 assists and 7 rebounds. And the commentator asked him, was like, well, your scoring's down. He said, but we up 20. So that's the mindset LeBron has been stuck with, is as long as his team succeeds, he's not worried about his numbers. But you know, LeBron coming into the NBA, he wasn't known as a scorer. He was known as a facilitator, right? But for a guy that has not been known as a scorer, he's marching up the ranks in the scoring column. He's like 200 and some points away from passing Kobe Bean Bryant for third in all-time NBA points, but he wasn't known as a scorer. The only player in NBA history with 9,000 assists and 9,000 rebounds and over 33,000 points.
Yeah, those are impressive numbers, Case. The point you made earlier, you said he's going to be himself. He's going to play his game the way he knows how to play it, and not give in, to the media, or to the fans, or to what the public thinks he should or shouldn't be doing out there. I think that I can't remember which player. I think it might have been Gilbert Arenas that was on one of the shows, and he was talking about players and them getting criticized and what they should and shouldn't do. And I kind of agree with what he said. Is the things that the players have been doing that they've probably been doing all their life to get them to the NBA, to the big stage, is what's made them successful.
Exactly.
And so, to a certain point, you kind of have to look at that and say, well, if everything you've done the way you've been doing it's got you here, is it wise to try to change that up too much, I would say? Or is it more realistic to look at it as like, hey, what does that player need to do? Or what needs to be surrounding that player, in the case of basketball, to help him get over that hump right there? Because it may not be just the individual player. We could talk about LeBron, we could talk about James Harden, we could talk about a lot of these players putting up these big numbers, the ones put big numbers up through the season. You get to the playoffs where the defensive intensity is more, when the games mean a lot more because you're going for a championship at this time. So putting that wear and tear on their body, doing all those things they did during the regular season, coming into the playoffs, it's more likely than not that they might have a letdown or things may go down. Why? Because teams said, okay, James Harden scored 40 on us during the regular season. If we can hold him to 30, we're going to do that. Let's step up even more and put our focus on him. So James Harden, realistically, shouldn't have the same type of numbers he had in the regular season that he does in the playoff. But I agree with you. The team still has to find a way to be successful. When you're a star player, whether it's Harden, whether it's LeBron, whether it's Kobe, whether whoever it is, that's when you get with your team. That's when you get with your coaches and your GMs and your owners and say, listen, you see what's been going on. These are the pieces I need around me to make it work, because I can't carry the team by myself. I've tried over the years. You see that I can only get so far. We need the right pieces in there. And I think you saw that with LeBron and some of the other people that were champions. They got the pieces around them that they needed. Some pieces fit a lot easier and made it smoother in the Miami days than others.
Yeah.
Whereas in his beginning days in Cleveland, I remember you and I watching those games where, they got swept by the Spurs.
Yes.
And that young man carried that team of, quote, regular players on his back, much like Iverson did,
yes,
a local great, did when they went up against the Lakers. What can one man do no matter how hard they try? He could only do what he did, but he stayed consistent. That's where he is, to this point. He was able to get the pieces around him, put themselves in situations that work for him, where some other players, Melos, the Karl Malones, the Allen Iversons, the Charles Barkleys, weren't able to fully do that, partly because of the situation they had going around them, and partly because of the teams they were going up against. Barkley, you're not going to beat a Jordan in his prime years. That's not going to happen. Iverson, too many other teams out there that are fully equipped for you to get past that hump. That time was your time versus the Lakers, and with Shaq and Kobe on there. I'm sorry, I love Allen Iverson, but you're not getting over those mountains that you have right there.
Totally
LeBron,
agree.
on the other hand, was able to do that with his team in Cleveland. To me, was the championship that stands out the most, is when they beat that Golden State team, 73 win team, and when he came down with that block on Iguodala. To me, and they show that highlight. They show that photo from that. To me, that summarizes everything.
Yes.
He willed his team to victory. He had pieces that fit. He had pieces that could deliver. Kyrie Irving and some of the other players there. But he, as a superstar, did what I have seen from other superstars and would expect from the Hardens and some of the other ones who haven't got there yet, that when they're in that stage, when they're there, that they will their team, that's when their superstar, their all-worldness comes out of them, and they will their team to victory like LeBron did, like Kobe did, like Jordan did, like a lot of the other greats were able to do in those moments when they're facing their rivals on the big stage, and they needed that moment.
That's a great assessment, and I'm gonna piggyback off of that. I'm gonna just get back onto that Cleveland and Golden State series when you said he willed his team. And a lot of people talk about the shot that Kyrie hit. Kyrie did hit the big shot. He hit the game-winning shot. Now, like you said, that's a piece that LeBron needed. Kyrie fits well with LeBron James. Kyrie and LeBron was special together because with that duo, when LeBron was out of the game in Cleveland, Kyrie was still doing his thing, but Cleveland wasn't winning basketball games when LeBron was sidelined. So them two guys complement each other well. The reason why I'm saying this is because a lot of people came storming out when Kyrie hit that shot, talking about Kyrie should have had some consideration for the MVP. Now, rightfully so, because he hit the big shot, he hit the game winner, he hit the clutch shot, he hit the dagger. But my thing is, I want to go back and look at the events leading up to the block, to the Kyrie shot. Do you realize Cleveland was down in that game in the fourth quarter on the road? They was down 8 points. Go through this sequence with me. Cleveland gets a rebound. They come down. LeBron gets the switch. And he got the switch on the big man, who Golden State's big man. Who was the big man they had?
Back then,
because Bogut was going. They had the African dude. What was
the African guy, dark-skinned African guy.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
But he got the switch on him. He pump faked him. He got fouled, right?
Right.
And he went to the line and hit 3 free throws, which they said he couldn't do. He hit the 3 free throws, cut the lead to 5. Then he comes down and gets that same switch again, got Draymond off of him, got the big man on him. He hits the 3. They go up. I mean, they within 2. Then he comes down again, gets the pass. I think it was he gave the ball to Kevin Love. So they tied the game up. So it was a stretch of 3 minutes where nobody scored. They come down. Then it was 2 minutes left. Kyrie goes in. He misses the shot. Steph Curry, Iguodala gets the rebound, passes out to Steph Curry. Iguodala shoots down. LeBron gets the block. So LeBron hit 3 free throws and a 3-pointer to cut into that lead. Then at the same time, he gets the block, but Kyrie was the one that hit the big shot to win the game. And then they had to get a defensive stop. LeBron gets fouled. He gets 1 free throw to go down to put it a 4-point game. So
right.
Then I go back and look at the Spurs situation when people keep on saying, like Skip, Ray Allen saved his legacy. Now look at the events that led up to that. LeBron James hits a 3-pointer to put him in position to get that close. Then he comes down again. Then he shoots another 3-pointer, bricks it. What's his name got the rebound, threw it out to Ray Allen. Ray Allen hits 3, sends it into overtime. But you can't take away the events leading up to that when you're talking about one man willing a team to victory. So a lot of people, they don't look at that. They just look at the play that won the game. But look at the events leading up to it that put them in position to be in that position to win the game like that. Kyrie hit the big shot against Golden State. But look what LeBron did with all the pressure on him on a Game 7 on the road from a team that only had 3 losses in that building all year long. And you go win a Game 7.
I think most. I would think most. People that are basketball fans, that follow basketball, that at least have a basic handle on basketball and have watched the game, would agree with that and realize that, hey, it's a combination of factors that gets you there. Okay, you and I go in, to buy a new television, and I give $95 and you give $5 towards that 100. Just because you put your $5 on top doesn't mean you contribute the most and you bought the TV. But we can't control the Skip Baylesses, the people of the world that are going to look. And Skip has been notoriously critical of LeBron James. So, and I think that's part of his shtick that he does on TV, and what gets him draw, and part of the theatrics that they do is he's critical of LeBron. So he's going to look for other things to point out with that. But I think most basketball fans, not just LeBron fans, but most basketball fans in general, will look at the totality of that game and the circumstances and say, hey, you know what? Players put themselves in a position to win. Kyrie was set up for that, quote, game-winning shot, but that doesn't mean Kyrie won the game for him. It was a combination of what everybody did, and you would look at that just like an MVP race, just like a most valuable player for a game, who gets the game ball or whatever like that. I haven't seen a game or heard of a game where one player has scored every point, got every rebound, got every assist, which you can't do if you score every point. It's usually a team effort. Who contributes the most towards that team winning, to me, deserves the credit. So, yeah, Kyrie hit a big shot. That's great. Everything else surrounding that led up to that point where Kyrie was able, to make that big shot. And I think if you would ask Kyrie, he would say the same thing. Hey, I was able to make a shot, and we were in a position to capitalize on my big shot because of what everybody else did, in particular what LeBron James did to help us get there in that building with a team who set a record for NBA wins, who'd only lost 3 games in that building all year. Thank you very much for LeBron for setting me up for that shot and putting us in a position where we can win.
Yeah, that's a great assessment, man. And I just want to take this time out, shout out a couple of viewers that's tuned in. I can't catch everybody, but I see you, Fort Dog, man. Appreciate you tuning in, man. Appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate your support. I see you, Bobby Hines, man. Appreciate your support. Jay, I see you, Jay. What's up, cuz, man? Appreciate the support. Coop, Jay Coop. Appreciate your support, man. Appreciate you rocking with a brother. Leslie, I see you watching. Appreciate the support. Sheila, what's going on, my sister, man? Long time, man. Appreciate the support. Dane, appreciate the support, man. Redskins are on the up and up, Dane. They on the up and up, man. The Redskins got some good things coming. I'll touch on them in another podcast, man. They got some good things coming. But I also want to take this time, if you haven't, please go subscribe to my Simply Ball Droppin Facebook business page. If you're on Instagram, please follow Simply Ball Droppin. It's Simply Ball Droppin without the G. Simply Ball Droppin. Stay tuned for all the latest news and events. We got the apparel on deck. Got the drip. You got the hats, the hoodies. I got the beanies coming. We changing things up for 2020. I'm excited. I appreciate everybody that's tuned in and giving their feedback. But I'm still waiting for, some of the Cowboy fans to, I see you watching, but you don't want to, put your question out there. We can address it. But other than that, man, I appreciate the support. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Simply Ball Droppin. Like I said, if you haven't, go follow my Simply Ball Droppin Facebook page. Also, Simply Ball Droppin IG page. Also, catch Simply Ball Droppin on YouTube. Catch Simply Ball Droppin on Twitter. I'm on all the major platforms for my podcast, SoundCloud, Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes Radio, Google Play Music, and that's how we're going to rock out. But before I get up out of here, I just want to get Mr. V's prediction on the NFL playoffs. Who do you think is going to represent the AFC? Who do you think is going to represent the NFC?
Ooh-wee. Think on that one real quick here. been a hot season. Let me go through. Let me think out loud a little bit here. San Francisco's been charging hard. Seattle. Man, I gotta agree with Stephen A. on that. I say don't sleep on the Eagles, because sometimes they can do things. And hey, any given Sunday, one win is all it takes to move on to the next game. The Saints, going through some of them there. The AFC, I know the Ravens have played extremely well. Again, I'm a Redskins fan from the DMV. I've got no animosity towards the Ravens. I don't even really think about them because they're an AFC team. Unless we play them, then I cheer for my Skins. But let me see. What I'm trying to do here, KSAP, and those that are listening to this, what I'm trying to do is set aside what I'd like to see as opposed to what I think will be. There's a difference in that, and I'm sure all you guys can appreciate that there. Thinking about Tom Brady and them, and they've been who they've been, but lately they haven't looked that force like they've been in past years. Now, I'm thinking that the chink in the armor might be permanent now. All right. Go what's first coming to mind. I think the Ravens, part of this is one. But I think what they've done, I can see them marching out of the AFC, playing the way they've been playing. And that Lamar Jackson, and shout out to the Jackson family. That's my maternal side there. So Lamar Jackson, maybe some type of relative down the line. I don't know. Claim it if they get the Super Bowl. But I'm going to say Ravens come out of the AFC. NFC, I don't know if San Francisco can sustain that. Seattle is a tough team. They gave San Francisco a run for the money. Their defense has been okay. You know what? I'm going to regret this because I know it's not going to come to be, but that's what's sticking in my mind right now. Sounds like the front runners, the top two. I'm going to go with Frisco and Baltimore coming down to it. That's where the mind's at right now. That's what I got to go with because that's what the brain is saying. Those two stand out right there. They play the way they're playing. They're marching out of their conferences, and they'll meet in the big show. What you got, KSAP?
You know, my son, he's a Ravens fan. And
Ravens Beast.
Yeah, Ravens Beast 24. Shout out to Makai. Ravens Beast 24. And I tell him, Ravens are playing great ball. I think they got over the hump of the New England Patriots. I think they can, if they play the New England Patriots 5 more times, I think they'll beat the New England Patriots. My only concern with them is the Kansas City Chiefs. They played the Chiefs tough for 2 years straight, but they couldn't get over the hump. I know the AFC goes through Baltimore, but the way that Kansas City is playing now with the healthy Tyreek Hill, Damon Williams, you know, running the ball the way he's running the ball, the defense is stepping up the way they have stepped up. That's my only concern is the Kansas City Chiefs with the Baltimore Ravens. But if I had to be a betting man,
yes, where are you putting your money at?
It's hard, but I will go with the Ravens because Lamar Jackson, there's no answer for Lamar Jackson.
Absolutely not. Spectacular.
There's no answer for Lamar Jackson, but that's my only concern because the last 2 years I've sat here with my son and watched Baltimore play Kansas City. They've had them where they needed to have them, but they let them off the hook. And they, like the game last year, 4th down and let Patrick Mahomes throw across his body to Tyreek Hill in the crowd and make the catch to set up for the game winner. And then this year, they lost again this year. But I think this year, the difference is the Ravens' run game. And I just think the Ravens' run game is too much because they can hit you with Edwards. They can hit you with your boy Ingram. They can hit you with Lamar Jackson. You know what I'm saying? And the tight ends. And I think with the tight end connection that Lamar has with his tight ends and the way the defense is playing, you got Earl in the back anchoring that defense, and the rest of Marcus Peters. That was a great pickup. And I've always tell my son, I said, that's a great pickup in the guys, the front four and the linebackers. So, like I said, if I was a betting man, I would go with the Ravens, but I'm not going to go with them in a landslide because I still think that Kansas City is dangerous. But I just think if I was a betting man, I'd put my money on the Ravens. In the NFC, I've always told people leading up to what San Francisco was doing, I wasn't sold on Jimmy Garoppolo. And the thing is, I watched that first game they played Seattle when they lost, when they got into overtime. When the pressure is on Jimmy Garoppolo, I saw him panic. There's a lot of quarterbacks that are great under pressure, can step up in the pocket and make them throws. But when Seattle put the blitz on him in that first game, when Seattle won, I saw the happy feet with Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, playing in the playoffs, and it's that game. Everybody's focused on that game. You ain't got no other games going on. You got that one game. And even though the NFC goes through San Francisco, I still see Seattle being a formidable opponent. The way things are shaping up, the way the seedings went. Now, as a Minnesota Viking fan, we got to go all the way down to the Saints and play them in New Orleans. But I'm not going to count us out because we're a dome team just as well as they're a dome team. So anything can happen in that game. Our defense got to play lights out, but Kirk Cousins, I'm not sold on Kirk until he performs in prime time. I mean, our defense can only do what we can do for a certain amount of time, but Kirk still got to put points on the board for us. With the Eagles, this is one of the stories of when the coach should get more credit than what he's getting credit for. Dougie P has got these guys that are playing well, that are off the practice squad, late signings, are keeping them guys motivated and prepared. Do you realize that last game that Philadelphia played with, Carson Wentz only had 2 starters from week 1 playing alongside of him? And he still got it done. That's why they call it walk it to me. And with these talent evaluators, evaluating these talents, like getting a Boston Scott, the Saints got rid of Boston Scott. And, because they looked at him as a Darren Sproles type. They got rid of him. The Eagles picked him up, had him on the practice squad, signed him when Howard went down, and Sanders and Boston Scott came out of nowhere. The wide receiver that they have, he was an ex-quarterback playing on the practice squad. Perkins, the tight end, when Ertz went down, they signed him off the practice squad the day of, got a touchdown the last game. So in the big moments, Carson Wentz just steps up in the big moments. I don't care who he played. I don't care if it was against the battered Redskins or the battered Giants. But when it was time to win, he won football games, and the Eagles are going to be dangerous. And I think the Eagles will beat Seattle, and it's going to come down between San Francisco and San Francisco and the Eagles. And I might sound crazy for saying this because I'm a Vikings fan. Kirk don't show me nothing in game 1, and we get bounced out. But if we can move on from there, if we can beat the Saints and move on, I give us a chance. But I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens and the Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl.
Interesting. It's interesting. Okay, I can't disagree with that. I would not be surprised. Like I said, K-Sap, not be short about it. Any given Sunday, the Eagles have found a way to win. Yeah, they came out of our laughable NFC East, but for the same reasons you just said right there, and the fact is, it's one game, win one game and move on to the next one.
Yes.
That's not a team. If I was a team in the NFC East, that is not a team I would want to face.
Exactly.
I wouldn't want to take a chance facing them because things can happen, and it wouldn't be shocking if Philadelphia got to the show. I'll put it to you that way.
Megan, I do agree with you. Kirk Cousins right now is not a great quarterback. He went on a stretch run after he was called out by his receivers, Adam Thielen and Diggs on the podcast. And he went on a 4-game, streak where he was hot. But these last couple games, Kurt has not showed me nothing. So I do agree with you on that. Kurt is not a great quarterback right now. But like I said, if we get past the New Orleans Saints, we got a shot. But like Mr. V said, the Eagles are somebody nobody wants to see. And the fact that I say that is because the Eagles get to host a game next week against Seattle, playing in front of their home fans.
Right.
It is 0-0. So, and if you look at the Eagles' schedule, they beat the likes of the Rams. They beat the Bills. They beat the Packers.
Absolutely.
So you can't put nothing past the Eagles, and that's my prediction, man. I predict the Baltimore Ravens and the Philadelphia Eagles. And Megan, also Kansas City, when you say doesn't win when you want them to win, Kansas City been playing ball these last 3 weeks, man. After Patrick Mahomes came back from the knee injury, got himself together. But like we've always said about any sports, health is a major factor. And when you got guys that are healthy and they playing at the skill position and they back in the forefront, anything can happen. So that's my only thing about Kansas City with the Ravens, man. The Kansas City, like I said, I'm not just going to say, Baltimore Ravens. I had to think about that because I know what Kansas City is capable of doing. I'm not even worried about New England. Tennessee beats New England.
I take that. I'm against New England. I'm against you Patriot fans. I'm a Thomas Johnson Patriot graduate, but I can see somebody else.
Yeah, but Tennessee beats New England. And because ever since they went away from Marcus Mariota and changed the page and put the other quarterback in now, and Derrick Henry running the ball the way he's been running it, and the defense playing the way they've been playing, Tennessee's scary. I mean, we always had this terminology, you back your way in the playoffs. Tennessee didn't back their way in the playoffs. Tennessee went out there and did what they had to do to get in the playoffs. And I was telling these Cowboy fans, I hope some of y'all chime in, but I was telling them, as a Minnesota Vikings fan, I didn't want nobody to help us get in the playoffs. We controlled our own destiny. We did what we had to do to get to the playoffs. We didn't back our way in. We did what we had to do. Now with Dallas and Philly, whoever won that division, they backed their way in because of the fact that that division was so bad that you get in the playoffs with a 9-7 record. And look at all the other teams in the NFC, 5 losses or less. And you're playing, they get to host a team that only lost 4 games.
Yeah. Are you done? That's K-Sap, I want to say one thing real quick. So, if your Minnesota Vikings happen to win their playoff game and move on to the next round, I want you to give a personal shout-out to us Redskins fans because we helped make Captain Kirk what he is and delivered him on a bow to your Minnesota Vikings to help move them forward. So, just in case y'all do solidify that victory, just give a quick little shout-out and say thank you to the Skins for grooming them and passing them on like we do with a lot of our players here in the Washington area.
And you know what I'm going to say to that? You like that. That's all I can say. Well, guys, it's been real. I want to thank Mr. B for tuning in with me, joining me on our live podcast. Everybody out there that tuned in and listen, I do appreciate you. Appreciate all the viewers. I appreciate your feedback. We're going to be going live. We want more engagement. I'm going to start giving away giveaways, giving out merchandise. All you got to do is tune in to the podcast. Start giving away some hoodies, some beanies, some shirts. Got my coffee mugs coming. We're going to start giving away live giveaways on set. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Once again, this is your man, K. Sapp, the man behind the mic. I'll catch you on the next one.